It's our public service FYI program here on KROS for this Thursday morning. Clinton Mayor Scott and Maddasion with us, and that's what we're talking about. We should have the first part on the show because we were already talking. The show's already over now. But we were talking. Maybe we'll jump in there. It says about things, going to things, and we'll get to the 4th of July event. But we were just talking that you end up going to a lot of things because you like to, you want to, you want to make that appearance. It takes a lot. You as the mayor should do?
I think so. I think that's an important part of the job because, being approachable is a huge thing and being able to listen to citizens, and what better place to talk and understanding of what they're thinking or doing is when, being out at the events. And, I've had a lot of fun too. I've gone to a year and a half that I'd never gone to before, or I never knew even existed before. Especially things with the chamber, like the Biz After Fives and things like that. And it's just been a really good experience for myself and my family to go and talk to people and kind of socialize in that aspect.
Something unusual says you don't need to like it, or is it something you just feel it's an obligation?
No, I actually enjoy it. I do. If you haven't noticed, I talk a lot. So it's natural for me to be at those types of events and just chit chat with people and different things. And, like I said, I really enjoy doing it. And it's an experience that not a lot of people necessarily get to experience. And I'm just trying to make the most of it.
You learn a few things when you go to some of those events?
Yeah, I do actually. Sometimes when there's, different people at different events, you maybe get a different perspective on an idea, or someone pulls you aside and asks you a question. And, some people down there, if there's alcohol involved, they spew out a little more than maybe should. So that's good. You get a good idea of where people are at. And, I follow on the Facebook and I do these events and things like that because I really do want to understand the citizens' opinions on certain things, especially if it's something that maybe was on a cow that we're just discussing and it hasn't gone through the voting process yet, because that perspective is important. Because I think sometimes people may forget that the council members represent them and they're voting what the citizens want, not necessarily what they individually want. So we need to have that feedback.
Mentioned events, 4th of July festivities. Were you down for a little bit of that?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, we walked around a little bit in the morning and watched a little bit of the wiffle ball stuff, which I think next year I'm going to try to get on a team. That'd be kind of fun. It looked interesting and
show off your athletic skills.
Yeah, or lack thereof. But yeah, no, it looked pretty cool. And we walked around on there a little bit. Didn't get to the car show stuff. As we were, home with our son taking a nap, and then came back for the parade. And then after that, family tradition is 4th of July weekend. We're on the river. So after the parade, we hopped on the boat and headed out with my family. I have a uncle that comes back every year for the 4th. So we went out there and celebrated for a few hours out there.
Of course, that event started, I think this is the 10th year that it kind of restarted with the one-day event.
Yeah.
You've talked about resurrecting what was known as Riverboat Days, or a multi-day event. What are your thoughts on that after a couple, seeing this event with the one-day event? What are your thoughts about that after you talked about that during your campaign, I believe?
Yeah, I did actually. And, it's still on my radar. I've been doing a lot of research on that side of it. I've been talking to folks that were involved in Riverboat Days. A couple people that were on the board, and Greg Obrin, the council member, has been a huge asset kind of learning on how they did it, because it's a huge undertaking. It's not necessarily something that you can just whip together in a couple months. We need to make sure that it's calculated. You need to make sure that when it's launched the correct way, because you don't want to put that event on and say, hey, we're bringing back Riverboat Days, and then it just be a complete flop because you didn't take your time or your due diligence to make sure you did the right things. So I've got a list of 6 or 7 people that have reached out to me, a couple the other day, actually, after the article in the Clinton Herald, that they want to be involved in the process. They think that they have some skills and some assets that can help out. So I kept those names down there, and I'm hoping that we can get some meetings together here soon, because really, one thing I have learned is it's really not a city undertaking. The city might be involved a little bit on certain things, but it really is something that we need to get a committee together. It needs to be stood up and operated independently of city government.
Then maybe something people think it's a city event, but it really isn't. It's a committee outside the city. The city is obviously involved, but that's something outside the city.
Similar to the 4th of July festival. Right. It's not a city event. It happens in the city, but there's a committee that raises money and does all that stuff, and they handle that event. Because really, I think that's probably the best way to do it. I mean, I don't think you want city government with their hand in absolutely everything, and especially those events that you're putting things on. I think it's best to put it in the hands of the citizens and a group that's really focused on that one specific thing. So, Riverboat Days, the big question would be, should it be on the 4th of July again? Should we maybe transition to a different weekend and make it more of a Clinton festival? It's a tough question because obviously things on the 4th of July are extremely expensive. I also feel very strongly that the 4th of July committee does a really, really outstanding job running that event. And I don't necessarily want to be the person that says, hey, Riverboat Days is coming in, we're taking over, see you guys later. I think they do a nice job, and I'd like to keep that aspect going. So my thoughts are, maybe we look at a different weekend. Maybe we run it like it can be called Riverboat Days or whatever they want to call it, and have it a music festival / celebrate Clinton / different types of events for people, because it's just it'd be a good thing for us to happen. So for all the people out there that are telling me you're not following your word, I really am working on it, and I think hopefully over the next year or so we can make a resurrection of that event.
Of course, if anybody's interested in funding or donating or helping out, contact the mayor.
Mention that real quick. That's a big thing too, is funding. We need to raise some funds, because if you want a big name musical act to come through here, you're talking $40,000-$50,000 that you have to pay these people. So I don't think there's not a budget at the moment, obviously, and we're going to have to really be diligent on how we raise funds and do that. So if once we get it done, it's going to be a small to start, and you're going to have to work your way up. You're going to have to build, just like if you start a business, you can't go nationwide right away. You got to work yourself up to the bigger platform. So that's what I expect to see in the near future.
And to talk a little bit, in fact, we just talking. Erin Cole was in from the CRDC. One thing that she talked about was housing and the importance of housing in the community. You talked about that as well. We're talking a number of the apartments out by the casino, one side of the streets. Two competing units apparently across the street. One's been open for a while. It's full from what I drive past. There's a lot of folks living there. One's opening up across the street. I think you mentioned they've started to rent some space.
Yep.
These all good things for the community?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, housing is extremely important if you want to grow your community. You got to have a place for people to live. I think the trends have changed over the last maybe 10 or 15 years of the type of housing that people want. More people want the upscale, kind of the newer stuff. Rentals are important. I read an article a while back about the millennial kind of generation, and they don't necessarily want to buy a house and mow the yard and do that kind of stuff. They want to have a place that's nice that they can rent, and they can be mobile. And that's important to that generation on the study that I read there. So we want to bring people in. We have a lot of jobs available. If you listen to the radio on any station, or look at billboards or the newspaper, I mean, everywhere is hiring in Clinton. And not just one or two positions. I mean, there's some places that have 50, 60, 70 positions that they want to fill. So we'd like those people to live in Clinton, be part of the community. So that's why the big push for housing. And yeah, like you mentioned, they got the first section that's renting out of the single story out there, and then if you look on the backside, they're starting to build the 2-story ones, and I don't know exactly the timeline for those to be ready to be rented, but they're kind of doing it one section at a time, and there'll end up being 230 units there total.
And also we talked before, single housing developments or single family housing developments also either underway or in the planning stages around town, and those are also important for folks who are looking for something, that single family home instead of the rental place as well. There is some of that movement as well in the community.
Yeah. I think you look at the market right now and you talk to a realtor or someone that's in the housing business, and they'll tell you that, stuff doesn't stay on the market very long right now. And the trend seems to be going over the last year where there's a shortage in single family houses, and there's a push for people because rates are so low to upgrade. Maybe they're in $120,000-$130,000 house and they're ready to go to a 200 or 250, and then you've got those folks that are in the 60,000 range that are ready to go to that next level. So it's just kind of a cycle that we're going through, and it's not just us. I think it's across the area and across the state for sure. But yeah, it's extremely important. Riverstone Crossing has 2 permits ready to go for the first 2 foundations for their plats up there off of Springdale. So once that road gets poured over the next week or 2, hopefully they're going to have some backhoes up there digging foundations and rock and roll on getting some stuff built.
Scott, when you look at this, before you were mayor, did you see all this stuff going on? Obviously, maybe in your position in a financial institution, you saw some of this, but has some of this development surprised you as you got to be the mayor and maybe got a little inside view of this? Did you look at this differently?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a different perspective because now you see things from the beginning and you see how much work is put in, and then the announcement comes out and you're like, man, I've been working on this for 6 months, whereas, when you're not in the city government, the announcement just comes out and you don't necessarily understand all the work that goes into these different developments. And I think we've been very, very, very fortunate over the last 18 months with business expansion and things like that. And I'm not going to say that it's because of me, because we have a lot of great people and staff members at City Hall that really, really have worked hard. And we've got a lot of community members too that work hard doing business attraction, whether it's the chamber or the CRDC or just even local citizens that are working with different businesses. So it really is a community effort to get that stuff here, and it's just really cool to see. And hopefully we're going to have some more announcements here by the end of the year and get some more stuff in here because Clinton we're primed and ready to just kind of explode on all ends, housing, economic development with businesses and everything, and I'm really looking forward to that happening.
Mayor, too, you mentioned community. We don't talk about this, and we'll throw out there volunteers, I guess, from that standpoint, because you're the one who brings forward names for committees and boards and commissions across the city. We don't mention that very often. Maybe we ought to give that a plug as well. Yeah. That I don't know what openings you have or what groups. You always are looking for folks for different levels of things for all sorts of commissions and committees.
Sure. Yeah. And, those commissions are extremely important because that's the citizens' ability to affect change. And it's also their chance to, get involved in the process and steer the city in certain directions, whether it's the zoning board or the Historic Preservation Commission or any of those that are on there. And we do have some vacancies. We've got a couple on the library board. We've got Historic Preservation has a couple spots open. I'm trying to remember the other ones off the top of my head, but they're listed on the website, city website, and then our Choose Clinton on Facebook kind of periodically sends that stuff out because we're always looking for people to get involved. And we mentioned earlier about the different insight once you get into City Hall, once you get onto one of those commissions and you kind of learn some different things. I think it's a very enjoyable experience all around, and it might even inspire someone to run for council or run for mayor or do something like that because they get that experience and they get that knowledge being on a board or a commission.
There too, we always mention streets and a lot of work going on. I mentioned, of course, you must have got here in good shape today and not gone too far west because you can't get back on 13th Avenue North when you come to the studio. So that work's underway. Streets always projects in the summertime. People talk about this. Sometimes it's hard to get around. But yeah. You like that as good news. Yeah,
I think it's good news. I mean, I'm going to have to take the long way to get back to work from here because I can't, well, I guess maybe I can go that way.
You can go east out of our parking lot and get back to work. So You can't bring that on the boss when you get back. It took you half an hour to take the detour.
Sorry, I had to go all the way out to Main Avenue and back around. Yeah, no, streets projects are extremely important, and the council is very dedicated to the pavement management program, which infrastructure is important, and streets are probably the most important piece of that infrastructure, in my opinion. It not only for the people that live here and work here, but for folks that are coming to our community. If someone's looking for development, I mean, if you were looking to locate your business and you came in here and there was, roads were just absolutely atrocious, it's just not an attractive piece. So I think there's a lot of importance for that in many different aspects, and I know it's frustrating that roads are closed and you might not get to go your normal route, but with a little bit of patience and a little bit of positivity, you can see that construction is very, very important to the health and growth of our community.
Thinking of that, the work on manufacturing Bluff, Jason, the Craft City Engineer, is outlining some of, I guess, trying again for some grant money for that project. Can you update us on what's going on there?
Sure. So we had a public meeting last week for a few hours in the evening. Had a lot of citizens that showed up, a lot of business owners along there came, wanted to get an idea of what's going to happen, how is it going to affect their business. We even had a couple of them that talked to Jason and Matt and said, hey, when you're getting to my spot, you need to let me know, because I'm going to close down and I'm going to redo my whole parking lot at the same time and just knock it out, so that as soon as you guys are done, I'm ready to rock and roll. And I thought that was really cool, because it's kind of a partnership aspect with us and the business owners along there. So I'm excited. We have applied for the build grant. It's called the RAISE grant now 3 times, and we were unsuccessful. We are applying again, and I've said this publicly, and I'll say it now. I'm not real excited about applying again after we've missed it 3 times, but it really is the only shovel-ready project that we can submit for this federal funding. Now, that being said, the council and I have had some discussions where we're going to start working on other projects that would fit into this realm, so that we can have some projects on the shelf that are ready to go. So if a infrastructure bill comes up, or if something else comes up, we can say, ooh, that fits with this project. Let's put it in. Let's see if we can get some federal funding. So I think that's important. So we're going to go again here. I think, they're due July, and then I believe October now is where they're going to, when they're going to make the announcement. And I'm planning working with a couple of our folks out in DC right now. I'm going to plan a DC trip where I'm going to head out there and try to meet with some of the people that are the key players in the decisions for these types of funding, so that hopefully we can get an edge and maybe get awarded some funds this time.
From the presentation, it sounded like the city's committed to doing this, whether or not
Absolutely
those federal funds come along. That would help maybe move things along a little quicker. But from that presentation at the council meeting, if people didn't catch it, it sounds like this project is going ahead. Yes. No matter what.
The city,
is that the right interpretation?
Yes, absolutely. The city's committed to this. This is not an exact timeline, but if you think about it, it's probably like a 5-year timeline to get the project completed without federal funding. If we get the federal funding, now we're looking at 2.5-3 years project completed. So really what it's going to do is speed up the process. And then obviously, I understand that federal dollars, state dollars, local, are all taxpayer dollars. I get that, but it'd be nice to get the $6.5 million from the federal government. And then we can use $6.5 million to allocate towards a different project in town that's going to benefit us in the long run. So,
what else is coming in the future? What could you give us any insights on that maybe coming up for some future discussions? Can you give us any hints?
Sure. Yeah, we're going to actually start in July here, probably next week or so. We're going to have. We're going to make it public. We're going to try to promote it as much as we can. I'd like to have some capital improvement program discussions before we actually get into the committee stuff. I'd like to hear from citizens, and I'd like to hear from council members and anybody else that wants to come in and talk about projects that they think are important to the community that might be good for quality of life or growth or whatever it is, and really kind of start to prioritize maybe a 5 or 10 year plan how to do some of these things. Obviously the sports complex is going to be a big one that's going to be discussed. There's other plans on there, different projects that people have brought up. So I'd like to really create a comprehensive plan with the citizens' input on, hey, where do we want to go? What do we want to do? What things would be nice to have in our community, whether it's an ice skating rink or something like that, because I think that's extremely important on many different levels. So that's the biggest thing that I think is coming up that's exciting, because anytime you're doing new projects and bringing new things, it's exciting. But you're going to see, obviously, we bonded for money for projects, through the last budget process. That stuff gets finalized here July, August timeframe, and those funds become available. So you're going to see a lot more riverfront projects. You're going to see some different things happening. We're going to extend the lights all the way down to 25th Avenue North on the bike path so that it's not so dark in the mornings and things when people are walking. You're going to see some camera upgrades for security issues up there. I mean, you're just going to see a lot of new things happening as we move forward. Some electric charging stations for vehicles. That's something that's important to me, and we're gonna not that I drive an electric car, but I think it's gonna be big for us in the future. So a lot of little things, some big things. The restroom at Clinton Park is going to be a project you'll see going on too, which is a public private partnership, which was kind of neat. A group in town raised $17,000 to help that project out, which they all in that neighborhood. So I'm excited to see the different things that are going to be coming along.
You mentioned you spoke at the, speaking of groundbreaking, you spoke at the Clinton High School groundbreaking ceremony a couple of weeks ago. Projects like that excite the mayor and good for the community, although it's not a city project, but
yeah,
look at it from the perspective of what it impacts the city.
Yeah, I kind of see it as a city project in a way, because like I mentioned when I was talking there, schools are an extremely important part of economic development, because when businesses are looking to bring 50, 100, 200 jobs here, their employees going to have kids. Where are they going to go to school? What are the schools like? And really the high school is the last piece for us to have fully renovated or basically brand new facilities, whether you're in kindergarten or you're in 12th grade. So I'm extremely excited to see this. I think it's going to be a new and innovative way to learn as well. The way Superintendent DeLacy has the new, academic wing laid out, and how they're going to kind of, really focus on transitioning how they teach and how they learn, and it's going to be really cool. I know it's going to be a big project. It's going to take a long time to get done. But it's going to be really good for our community, and I can't wait to see the final product when it's all up and ready to go.
Well, you mentioned schools. I don't think you're on the group, but a couple of weeks ago, again at the council meeting, there was a group bringing some school city collaborations, whether they want to continue some discussion. The Eagle Heights access road,
yep, and
some things like that. That cooperative effort, something I guess I hate to say new, but kind of a newer process the city's trying to work with the school district?
Yeah, I think that's extremely important. We're working on a 2080 agreement right now based on the discussions that we had at that meeting with the partnership between the school district. Realistically, all the dollars are kind of the same dollars when they come in from taxes, but I think it's important for us to work together with the county and the school district and the state and everyone else, because we can't do things by ourselves. If any city thinks that they can be on their own and just go do their own thing, I don't think that's the right way to operate. I think a successful community is having all the players involved and all the players on board in a direction, taking the community in a direction that is a unified vision and not necessarily the vision of one person or 7 people in the council chambers. So I think it's a good thing, and that relationship with those other entities is extremely important to me.
Well, thanks, Mayor Scott Maddasion, for coming in today to visit with us about a number of different topics, and we'll see you again next month.
Thank you very much.